You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. In this edition, we focus on the Lagos Business School and its contributions to society. I speak with the Dean of the school, and we sit in on the Lagos Business School's Alumni Day deliberations with two key speakers, the CEOs of Guinness Nigeria and a foreign motivational speaker. Enjoy the program. We're here at the Lagos Business School, and with the Dean of the Business School, Dr. Mrs. Enase Okedebe. Enase, you're welcome to the Policy Council. Let me ask you, what's the mission of the Lagos Business School?
We're very focused on developing responsible leaders for Africa and the world. In the first few years of our existence, we were very focused on developing leaders for Nigeria. But over the last 5 years, because of the number of trends that we have seen, we have expanded our focus to developing leaders across Africa, and two things led to this primarily. The first was that in the past, when we were developing leaders for Nigeria, at that time, a lot of the businesses operating within Nigeria were Nigerian businesses focused on operations within Nigeria. Now, with the growth prospects that have come out of Africa over the last couple of years, especially in the last 5 years where they have heightened, we have seen the expansion of many multinationals into Nigeria. With multinational companies, they're looking for talents that can spread across their operations, especially within Africa. Therefore, you find that the manager that we're looking to develop today requires a different level of sophistication than we had previously. That's one trend. The second thing is that we also have what I term regional giants that are being created. So a lot of Nigerian companies, especially in financial services, telecoms, manufacturing, are expanding across the continent. And it would be a disservice if we focused on developing managers only for the Nigerian market, whereas these managers are subject to mobility and spreading across Africa.
You mentioned some significant developments in Lagos Business School, Pan-Atlantic University over the last 1 year or so in your speech. Can you take us through some of those developments again?
Okay, so what it is that we focused about 2 years ago on research centers and creating research centers within the Lagos Business School that will focus on research in order that the outcome of those research will drive policy. 3 years ago, we launched the Center for Infrastructure Policy Research and Advocacy, the CIPRA, funded by a lot of corporate organizations. This year, we have launched the Center for Research in Leadership and Ethics. I'm sure you will agree with me that leadership is something critical across Africa. And then we've also launched the Center for Competitiveness and Strategy. So that's in terms of the research centers. In terms of the programs that we have launched also in this year, I'm very excited about one program that we have launched, which is the International Management Program for Leaders in Africa. Also following our objective of trying to develop leaders, and we just thought of it to say, you know what, with a number of leaders and companies that are expanding across there, obviously you have to know how to manage in different clients. So there's the cultural things that you have to know, the nuances of business, the corporate practices there. And we created that program in response to that. And for our first program, which we only launched in July, is proving to be quite successful.
Wow.
So on the university level, I think that perhaps brought on by demand from people who have been to the Lagos Business School and our sister school, the School of Media and Communication, which, as you know, are postgraduate schools. There was a lot of clamor for us to say, you know what, can't you start on the graduate schools? Now that in itself was one reason why we decided to launch an undergraduate school, which will commence in September 2014 with courses in accountancy, business administration, and mass media communication. But indeed, I think that was also a response. So it was more demand-driven, but it was also a response to perhaps the quality of applicants that we have that were coming into the school. Because over the last 25 years, we've seen a decline in the quality of graduates that come from the different standards across higher institutions in Nigeria. And our applicant pool, we have seen it begun to shrink because we didn't have qualified applicants. But then, I mean, I think with the advent of private universities, some of them are doing very well. Some federal universities are doing very well, but we decided to contribute to widening the pool of qualified applicants. So this is one other reason why we launched this program. Hopefully it will feed into our graduate programs.
Let me ask you a final question. In terms of the wider educational sector, what do you think I mean, beyond the contribution of LBS, what do you think the country can do, the private sector? What are the most critical things we can do about education?
You know, I wouldn't limit it to the private sector because I do believe that government has a role to play. The first thing, and I think the most important thing, is to increase the level of funding that goes to the educational sector. I mean, the UNESCO standards set the level of funding at 26% of the national budget. Only last year did we get to 8.4%. Prior to that, we were ranging between 5–6%. In some states, it's abysmal. It's like 2%. Obviously, government has to be concerned about the quality of manpower that's going to help to actualize the growth that we speak about, all those GDP projections and all of this as well. So, you know, there is a role for government to play. Now, for corporate and private organizations, a number of them have stepped in to fill the gap. But then, you know, the challenge with those is that I think that there's lax regulation across board of the private schools. Sometimes they're overpriced and out of reach of the common citizen. So if we're looking at 20 million school children that come into the primary school system each year, the percentage that are able to afford private education is less than 0.0001% there. So obviously, there is a critical role. I would say funding. The other thing that I think is critical for us is the curriculum. You know, in this day and age where, you know, when we're looking for skilled manpower, we're looking for people that bring creativity to the workplace, adaptability. These are skills that are necessary. But I think the educational system that is mainly learning by rote, you know, disadvantages the great number of people who come into the workforce every year. So we're not giving that. We're also not matching the things that we offer to what the needs of the economy are. Right now we're talking about the contribution of GDP and how we can make that achieve more prominence there. Can you think about how many schools of agriculture there are there? So there is a role for government. Government cannot abdicate that role. There is a role for the private sector, but we have to work together to get this to happen.
Dr. Enase Okonedo, Dean of the Lagos Business School, thank you for coming to the Policy
Thank
Council.
you very much, Okweni.
I'll be right back.
Government wants our city to become a mega modern city. And so, government is providing modern markets for us to carry out our business. Now, this requires money. So, we need to pay our taxes to help government to help us. I pay my taxes. I hope you've paid yours. I pay. Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
So, talking about leadership, I was asking myself, so what's a business leader, you know, paid to do to start with? And it doesn't matter how many CEOs you talk to. From my experience, being CEO for the last 12 years, I can only say to you that it's just one thing at the end of the day. It is about growing shareholder value, full stop. It's really about growing shareholder value. Whatever you do, if it doesn't add up to growing shareholder value, you're just wasting your time. And the way it is that ultimately it's all going to be down to consumption, right? The point about this is that it is about growing shareholder value. For the leader, it is about creating a vision, and that's what speaks to the leadership. Creating a vision, setting strategic direction, empowering the organization, okay, and really simplifying processes such that people can get on with life with or without you. I'm hoping that as I'm here for this next 1 hour, people are still producing Guinness on the packaging floor. Otherwise, I'm cooked. Therefore, empower the organization, simplify processes, and really let people get on with their work. The ultimate thing that any organization does, from my perspective, is to create consumption for their products or service. And you only do that by winning the hearts and minds of your consumers. Okay? So there's what we call consideration, conversion, consumption. I'm not going to go through consideration and conversion. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what service, whether it's banking, telecoms, whatever. All you want to do is to get people consuming your product or service. There are 3 letters that came to my head. I call this PPR. Because I believe that whatever you do in business world is really around people, performance, and reputation. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you are in HR, you are probably in the people zone. If you are in sales or marketing or supply, you're probably in the performance zone. Corporate relations, you know, reputation. It just doesn't matter what you do. in an organization, the life of every organization, from my perspective, is really around people, performance, and reputation. But when I think about people, in my organization, I do not let my HR man own the people agenda. I own the people agenda with my HR director. Okay? Because it all starts and ends with people. So the whole thing about creating succession planning and career paths, the whole thing about capability building, the whole thing around retention, engagement, etc. There are things that I own with my HR director. And the reason is that you need people coming through for you to be a successful organization. So as part of my leadership, even though I grew up in sales and marketing, I've come over the years to learn that it's so imperative that you are seen as a people person in an organization. So talking about good leadership for corporate excellence, that for me is the first thing. Performance, I can speak all day about performance. For me, incidentally, I happen to be a very competitive person. And I try to live that every day. I see a lot of people here that I know very well. They will attest to that. I live that every day. With the result that over time, I realize that a lot of my people are becoming very obsessed with winning. You just see this fire in their belly that really make them want to win. And it's because, like somebody said one time, as a leader, the camera is on you 24/7. People are watching you. I can't tell you how many times I've been at the airport and I'm checking in. And the man or the woman is checking me in. And at the end of the day, just when I turn back, he or she says, "Sir, how is Guinness Nigeria?" And I don't know whether to answer or to curse him or her. That's so you don't mean this last 5 or 10 minutes, whatever the time, you kept quiet. If I had abused you, if I had been, whatever it is, you say, look at the MD of Guinness Nigeria. The camera is only 24/7. So when it comes to performance, as God the leader, so goes the organization. That's my view. That's how I met. Again, I'm sharing my leadership experience with you. And when it comes to reputation, again, there's nothing bigger than that. When you see a Guinness, you hear 1759. What it means is that the first bottle came out in 1759. This is 2013 we're in. When you hear a Coke, 1886, it means that the first bottle came out in 1886. I do not believe that it is their commercial expertise that has kept them for over 250, 300 years that they're talking about. I think there's a big part that the reputation of the companies has been in sustaining them. And today we're still talking about Coke and Guinness as like something that was brewed just yesterday. So reputation is important, and it's really in the context of you as leaders, what legacy you want to leave. Every day of my career, believe me, I think about it and say, what is the legacy I want to leave? As the MD of, when I was in Ghana, as the MD of Guinness Ghana. Okay? And that drives me. That gives me a spring in my step. It just wakes me up. But at the end of the day, all roads lead to leadership. All roads lead to leadership. When I talk about leadership, two things come to my mind. The first is the task of a leader. It's really about taking people to where, and a lot of people define leadership in the way they want. But there are two that really touch my nerve, touch a nerve in my heart. The first is that it's really about taking people that you lead to where ordinarily they will not have reached. Okay? That's the task of a leader. But when it talks about a good leader inspires confidence in him. But a great leader inspires his people to have confidence in themselves. Big difference. Okay? And the whole subject of empowerment that I was talking about sits in the context of really letting people have confidence in themselves. Okay? Now, there are 10 things that work for me. The first is that, and I'm going to be closing with these 10 things I'm saying. A leader in the corporate world of today has to stand for something. So my purpose, for instance, is, I called out many years ago, probably about 10 years ago actually, to be honest. I said my purpose will be to inspire a new generation of African leaders. To role model those values that people consider as being un-African. So values of what? Values of integrity, of good governance, of accountability. And I arrived at that. Why? Because I was hearing things like, Africans are wonderful people, they are fantastic. But actually, can we trust them to manage big companies? And when I started getting the trust of the owners of businesses, big businesses to manage, I said, no, I better cause for more of this to happen. So really causing and inspiring a new generation of African leaders is my purpose. And it doesn't matter what job I do, I have that at the back of my mind. I'm going to stand for something. Second thing I'll call here is about act. Every one Saturday month, I just drop everything and then try to learn something new. But that's something else I'm coming into. You can't say you want to be XY if you are lazy. It's just inconsistent. It's completely at various with age. Let me move on in the interest of time. The third one for me is speech to market, less is more. I hope that if you meet anyone who has worked for me before, they will tell you that this guy is an action guy. Okay? It's interesting because I just don't believe that people should deliberate too much on anything. Your strategy is your execution. Okay? In the past, and I've changed myself, in the past I used to say to people, make sure you execute your strategy well. I've come back to say, actually, it doesn't matter whether you say that or not, because what the consumers see, what people see outside, that execution, as good or as bad as it is absolutely your strategy. And there's no difference. And this leaning on insights, but trusting your instincts, is also sort of fits into this whole thing about speed to market. Let me tell you that for me as a marketing person, by default, I like to get insights before I make decisions, especially big decisions. But it's not all the time you trust, you do insights. You trust your intuition. Somebody once described to me and said your intuition is your banked knowledge. And there's no way you have an intuition on a subject matter when you are paid as an expert that will be at the same level as a 10-year-old who has not been trained at all. You can never have the same level of intuition. So at times your intuition pays. Do it, just get it done. I remember very quickly I was in Atlanta when I was marketing director for Coke, and they were going to run a Sprite advert, and they wanted to get my opinion as a Nigerian. And I looked at it and said, I haven't done any research, but this is not going to work in Nigeria. Oh, you Nigerians have come again. Every other market likes it, except you Nigeria. Why would it not work? I said, but why would it work? The caption for some of you, because eventually they overruled me and they ran into this market. Guess what? It failed woefully. For those of you who are in Nigeria, the caption was for Sprite. It was image is nothing, thirst is everything. Obey your thirst, drink Sprite. I say that again. Image is nothing, thirst is everything. Obey your thirst, drink Sprite. And I said to them, in my country, actually, image is everything. No? The man who is in motion, when you ask him where do you live, he says to remain because motion is part of Sweden local government at that time. No, it's true. Image is everything. So, you go and put a billboard, everyone says image is nothing. The man who is driving Toyota, when he sees a BMW pass, he will hide if he knows the person inside. Image is everything. They put it on the face. Trust your intuition. Measuring yourself against the best is also something that has helped me a lot in my career. I said before that I'm so competitive. Every time I look at myself, it's about what can I do to be the best in anything I do. Okay? Listen, it's important for you as leaders to know the difference between good and great. And for me, I always say to myself, good is not good enough. The next thing is humility. It speaks for itself. As a leader, you've got to be humble. It's difficult. I have faced that challenge. Because at times you just get into some mood where you just, not because you have power, but just because something needs to trigger up and you want to show how big or how powerful you are. And I just want to suggest that that's not good for corporate excellence as a leader. Bashoro Adesoya, chairman of Nigerian Public Company, was saying to me one time, he said to me that in Yoruba, and I'll translate that, I'm closing very soon. He said to me in Yoruba, owó tí mo ní, owó tí ó pọ̀ ní tí kò dẹ̀ lè tán láíláí. I hadn't heard that before. Owó tí mo ní, owó tí ó pọ̀ tí ò lè tán. In other words, my wealth is this small, it can never finish. Well, in Nigeria today, people that have so much wealth, guess what happens to the wealth? It finishes. How can you have this little wealth? And it really was the point about goodwill. I'll move on. Last but one, invest in your growth. I said that before. You know, I happen to be a chemical engineer, like you said. But the truth of the matter is that, to the glory of God, you know, I can read any P&L like the back of my hand, any balance sheet like the back of my hand. In any case, I moved from engineering to marketing. as the first time government to enter this market for coke. And the point is that I learned very early on in my life to invest in my growth. To get that risk. I say come out of your comfort zone. You've had that many times. But for me, it's really about taking risks. And so, a lot of times I hear many of you say that you are stuck in traffic. And I just want to close by saying that maybe you are not stuck in traffic, maybe you are in the traffic. Thank you very much.
The right brain is connected to intuition, and just like Seni was saying, I trust it. My right brain was saying it feels right. The left brain is connected to fear and ego. And my left brain was saying, yeah, but. And so I had some war in my head. And to find peace in myself, and to make sure I wasn't passing by something of genuine help, I made an agreement with myself that I would think positively about all of the challenges in my life. I would do it for 1 year. And at the end of 1 year, I would step back and I would clinically measure the improvement to see whether it was true or not. Positive thinking is so simple, but it is not simplistic. It is deeply profound. Only it is misunderstood by most people. Most people have the mistaken idea that positive thinking is about walking through your life with your head in the clouds, pretending everything is wonderful even when it is not. That isn't positive thinking. That is delusion. It is a dangerous thing to do. If I have my head in the clouds because I don't want to look at the hole in the ground, I'm going to fall in the hole. If I am not aware of the reality and capability and quality of character of the people around me, and I place my trust in someone that doesn't deserve it, or I place unrealistic expectations on one of my team because I only want to see the best in everybody rather than the reality, then I'm going to become disappointed and let down. And it's not about judging people as being right or wrong. It's just about clearly seeing where they are on their path. And of course this principle applies to us personally. We must be prepared to look at our darkness as well as our light. If we are closing our eyes to a negative habit, a limited belief, a poor attitude, those things do not correct themselves on their own. We would have a world full of wonderful people if they did. It takes work. We have to work on ourselves, to develop ourselves, to be leaders of ourselves. Then our life starts to reflect it. Our outer life will always reflect the inner quality of our thoughts and our attitudes and the values that we choose to step forward by. It's a strange thing, but in many ways positive thinking begins with raising your awareness of what is not yet right. Being aware of what needs to be improved, maybe avoided, corrected. But then the key is you must hold your focus on where you want to go, what you want to achieve. This is an absolutely crucial point to understand, and it actually goes to the core of building capacity within personal development. It's a balance that is required. There is a very simple but extremely powerful principle that governs the mind. You will always move towards the thing that you focus on most. Sometimes consciously, but most often unconsciously, whether that thing is something you desire or something you dread. And the reason why this happens is because your subconscious mind, which is extremely powerful, works like your own personal autopilot. It cannot think for itself. It simply follows the strongest thought in your conscious mind.
Who knows abi better thing? Abi who no like better thing? All these fine things wey dey see so. Na money government dey take do am now. Abi, it's like, I mean, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do wetin? I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. Have you pay your tax? I pay oh.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
The Lagos Business School and its parents, the Pan-Atlantic University, are an example of what is possible in Africa. As Africans, we can build institutions. We can do things to global standards. We can practice excellence, and we can impact our society. The LBS has done its little bit in the area of education, postgraduate education, business education. But others can take up the mantle across the sphere of the educational sector, and indeed beyond the educational sector. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.